Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe and like. And please visit us at barrykibrick.com, where you'll see all the ways that you can become a patron of our mission and help us continue to build a community of seekers who quest for knowledge, information, and most importantly, wisdom.
Today on Between the Lines, how the ballet came to America with the acclaimed actress Victoria Tennant. Welcome, I'm Barry Kibrick. Victoria's mom, Irina Baronova, was one of the most influential ballerinas in the world. Her great talent helped popularize ballet throughout all of America. With Victoria's most gorgeous photo book, Irina Baronova and the ballet Russes de Monte Carlo, we learn how her mom played a major role in spreading ballet across the country. Plus, we discover how the strength to overcome adversity lies within us all.
I'm a writer today because I was a reader when I was 11 years old. And it was...
You do not need to prove your state of happiness to anybody.
Most of these speeches were as much as a month in preparation.
Characters, the heroes in this book, are seekers of truth in a story that involves a lot of corruption.
I don't get a chance to really talk about what's real. And this is perfect for me.
Victoria, it is a pleasure and honor to have you here on Between the Lines. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm just so happy to be here.
You know, I have to start this off. I had Nigel Lithgow on, I was telling you just before, and my family are such big fans of dance. And when they saw this cover, my wife and my son just went, "Oh my God, Dad, you've got to get Victoria on the show. You got to." And thankfully, Judy, your publicist, one of the best there is, I get a call the next day before I even, do you want Victoria? Yes, I want Victoria on. So what is so fascinating that one would probably have never known was Irina Baronova, your mom, is literally responsible, one of the people, not the sole person, for bringing the art of ballet to the shores of America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. It's an amazing tale.
It's unbelievable to think that there was a time when ballet was virtually unknown in America. I mean, now when every little girl has a tutu in her dress-up drawer and, every city has a ballet school, dance lessons, so many amazing American ballet companies, but there was a time when no one had seen it. And the Ballet Russe tours where they lived on a train for 6 months at a time. And when you see the tour lists, you think, my God, they went to every two-horse town in America. I mean, they really took it to every corner.
I want the people to know, by the way, as we're talking, because that was one of the things I was going to actually show is the tour list, because it's amazing just to see. They're going to be seeing the images throughout.
Right.
And when I'll explain to them even for some of the images what they're looking at, because I think it's going to be blow mind to some extent.
That was one of the things that blew my mind in the research, because I'd heard about these tours. My mother had talked about them. Oh, we lived on a train for 6 months. And it's not just the dancers in the ballet company living on the train. There's a 50-piece orchestra and 2 conductors and the wardrobe mistress and a team of seamstresses and 6,000 costumes and the scenery. I mean, it's just huge. And I'd heard about this, but when I went to the New York Public Library, to the Jerome Robbins Dance Division, and I started going through the boxes and the folders and the portfolios of these extraordinary archives that they have, there were the black notebooks of the Ballet Russe company manager. And in them was written what they did pretty much every day for years and years and years.
This is how this particular book develops, is when Mom passed relatively recently, so she lived a very nice long life. You're going through all of her handwritten letters, all of her photographs, and what you've done here is you combine the letters, the photographs, Mom's own autobiography, and then your added interpretation of what you've experienced by the sheer journey of going through all of this material, which took literally months and months to just separate into piles.
Right. Well, when I volunteered to go through Mum's papers, I didn't know there was that much. You know, I expected there'd be a box or something. And when my sister sent me the boxes from Australia, they were man-sized moving boxes. I thought, Jesus Christ, what's in there? I mean, there must be a desk and chairs. What is it? And I opened it, and there were all these plastic trash bags and shopping bags, but full of over 2,000 photographs, letters going back to 1926, and most of them were just, you know, higgledy-piggledy like this. They weren't catalogued, they weren't identified, they weren't in order, they were just like that. And I thought, what am I going to do?
There's an emotional moment, especially as you unpack one of them and you see a pair of Mom's toe shoes, I guess, and one of them says her name and the other, my last performance. And that's where I sense the breakdown began.
I didn't know they were there. I didn't know she had them. I didn't know that most of this was there, but when amongst the papers I found this little silk pouch and this old zip that hadn't been unzipped in so many years, it was really hard to open it. And then I take out her toe shoes, these two little shoes, and her unmistakable handwriting, her name in one and my last performance in the other. I just sat on the floor and sobbed. I mean, that was so iconic, a possession of my mother's, you know, and that she kept them because she knew that it was the last pair of toe shoes that she would ever perform in.
But you say a line, and I'm always fascinated by the mother-daughter relationships, and you say these words, once again, I found myself on her journey. And in a very strange way, through the lineage of Mom, her mother's mother, and you, I don't know if it goes any further because it didn't go in the book, but all of you sort of, we joked in the green room about standing on the shoulders of giants when it came to science.
Right.
In a sense, you've, not that you're a dancer, but you've all felt that you're part of this journey. Mom felt that her parents were part of her journey. And you feel so strong that you're part of Mom's journey. And that this continuity of journey, I feel, has such strong philosophical underpinnings.
Absolutely. I mean, initially, Mum was really fulfilling her mother's dream, Granny's dream. Granny was the one who was taken to the ballet in St. Petersburg and who was so entranced by it, she wanted to have lessons, and her parents were shocked because in those days in St. Petersburg, a girl from a good family couldn't possibly dream of being a dancer and going on the stage. I mean, you could be a patron of the arts and you could go to the ballet, but it was tantamount to being a prostitute to say you were actually going to dance. So that dream was denied her, and had the Russian Revolution not happened, had my mother grown up in St. Petersburg as a nice girl from a nice family, she would not have been allowed to dance either. But out of the tragedy and the bloodshed and the murder and the disruption that happened with my family escaping into Romania as illegal immigrants in the clothes they stood up in, destitute, hungry for years after, came the possibility that she could dance. And it was Granny who wanted her to dance.
Well, you know, I wrote this note down, and I even actually use it in the introduction, and I say this is not just a book about ballet. This is a book about all of us on one level. The fortitude, the survival instinct, what is required to escape adversity. Let me just give a quick rundown. You talked about the Russian Revolution. That was the first thing because your mom, her parents were, and grandparents were part of the aristocrat circle at least. And then they have the Russian Revolution. They have your mom's father, or no, not mom's father, mom's grandfather shot because he was an aristocrat. You have this immigration throughout, like you said, 10 years of starvation and one set of clothes. You have the travel on the trains. You even have World War II break out to survive all of this and do so with grace, with charm, with dignity, and with love.
Yes,
that absolutely. Is a human quality that, again, transcends even Mom.
And I felt exactly that really strongly. A few years ago when we had the Great Recession, right? Is that what we're calling it? I had just dropped the kids off at school and I was driving back from my carpool run, and my husband called me on my cell phone, and we have a friend who was a banker in New York. And there's my husband on the cell phone, and he says, Howard just called me from New York, the banker. And he says, we're all going off the edge of the cliff. And he wanted me to know that we were all going to lose everything, and he was wishing us luck. And I thought, oh my God, the banks are all going to fail. This is the message we've gotten. And I had to pull the car over to the side of the road on Beverly Glen, and I sat there at the steering wheel, and I could feel the adrenaline rushing through me, and I thought, we're going to lose everything. We're going to lose the house. We're going to lose all our savings. And in the next instant, I thought, but that's what's already happened to my family. My grandparents lost everything, and somehow they survived. And I thought, I will survive too. We will survive too. I'll dig a ditch if I have to. What the hell? It's already happened. And the other thing I find so extraordinary about my grandparents and my mother is what her parents sacrificed for her. And they were destitute. They were illegal immigrants. They were hungry. My grandfather was working in a factory during the day. He was cleaning offices at night. He was washing cars. He was laying bricks. This is just to feed them. And he gives up all of that to work for a year for 3 third-class train tickets to Paris because someone says his daughter has talent in the dance class and that she needs to study with a teacher in Paris. And they pull up the very poor, meager sticks that they've managed to put down in Romania, and they all go off to Paris to give a 7, 8-year-old child a chance at a better life, a chance not to live in a slum behind a factory building. They've given up everything they've established to have another go where they move into another slum behind another factory, and he's got another horrible job. But it's to give that kid a chance.
Well, now let's talk about how we come to America and what transpires, because Mom, and I want them to, they're going to see pictures of Mom, and I want them to know that the pictures that we're talking about now, Mom is between 12 and 14 years old. Now I know as a child, she must have looked in real life, I hope, like something like a 12 or 14-year-old gal would look. But here, I wrote down, I said, 12 must be the old 24, because Mom looks like a mature woman at that age.
Well, the makeup, the hats, the clothes, and this is before the 60s, which was the first time in the world that young girls weren't made to look like their mothers. I mean, the 60s and rock and roll and psychedelia and flower power, that was the first time when young men and women didn't put on miniature versions of their parents' clothes and hairstyles and makeup. So, yeah, she was looking the same as her mother, but in the pictures where her face is washed of makeup, where she's just herself, she looks like a child.
Oh, and you can tell she's experiencing things like a child, because she's never really taking care of herself. She's got management, she's got this man Jerry she ends up, I like how you said, even with your own father, Cecil Tennant, Mom was involved with men she really hardly even got to know.
She was used to taking her marching orders, right? From a child, she was used to being told what to do by her parents, then by the ballet company, which was almost a year-round job. You go here, you show up there, you do this, you do that, and then to a powerful husband who was the director of the company. And so it went on. She was given pocket money. Her salary, either her parents or her husband took her salary, and she was given pocket money. But she wasn't the manager of her own life or her own earnings. She was not a material person at all.
Well, let's see what happens. So we have three very famous, one that everyone's name is going to know. We have René Blum, Massine, and then George Balanchine. And everyone knows that name from the ballet. They come to Paris. They're putting together this Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. Is that my pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. And they're looking for three young ballerinas, 12 to 13 years old, and Mom is one of those three.
Right, and her parents said, well, obviously not. I mean, she's 12, she's at school. And they got talked into it. So she left school at the age of 12, and there were no tutors. Not like now where you have showbiz kids and there's tutors and teachers on the set. No, she left school when she was 12 and that was it.
Oh, you make a funny line. She spoke 4 languages but couldn't write an alphabet or spell in any one of them.
But what an education she had.
Oh,
Look at the artists she worked with. I mean, Stravinsky played the piano at the rehearsals. I think the education that replaced the education she was getting was incomparable.
Well, let's talk about the set designers. They go from Picasso to Matisse to Marc Chagall to gosh knows who else.
That's right.
I mean, these people, what they did for travel, and this is what they were doing. They were traveling, like you said, from every town and every hamlet, putting on this extravagant performance that no one even heard of the term, and they literally, because of the performance, literally by your mom, who was the star ballerina, or at least one of the 2 to 3 of them, they were mesmerizing the world. Like
That's
you said,
right.
they were performing at one time. You mentioned her as a rock star. At one time, besides performing in theaters, they were performing like at rock concert-sized stadiums.
Right. Stadiums, 25,000 people, 15,000 people. I mean, that's amazing. And there was a dual existence because in the theatre, with particularly the heavy stage makeup and the costumes, she was an important artist working in a company of adults and artists and being treated with great respect, and she had an important position. But once she washed her face and put her street clothes on and left the theatre with her mum, she was a little girl.
Oh, this is in fact, I think... Oh, go ahead, please.
And, I mean, men would sit in the audience, you know, in their evening clothes and then go with bunches of flowers to the stage door to wait for Madame Baronova. And this little girl would walk out with her mother and they'd say, do you know if Miss Baronova's coming? They didn't recognize
You
her.
can't, I'm telling you, when they see the pictures, it's such, it blew my, I had to keep going back. Is this date correct? It can't be. And I kept going back and forth. But a perfect example of that is she's playing the role of Passion in one particular dance. And Mom's words, my role was Passion, but I was only 13. I had no idea how to convey passion. I was forced to look inside myself and explore my moods and feelings. Talk about an education of consciousness.
That's right. And I can imagine her going around the rehearsal studio and saying, what's passion? She was 13. She'd never even had a boyfriend. And imagine all the different answers she would have gotten. What passion is to this person is different from what passion is to that person, right?
That's true. Passion can mean struggle. Passion can mean love. It depending on how you use it.
It can be positive, right?
And she's trying to figure this out.
And all these confusing answers that she's getting.
You know, I have to ask, because there's a Mom, of course, it's the classic, it's Swan Lake. And I had this discussion on the way here with my wife and son from the Black Swan. And I swear there seems like a story that they must have copied out of your mom, because your mom was asked to take the lead role. And at that time, I think she was either 13 or 14, 13. And first of all, the one of the dances, Lachine maybe it was, I don't remember Lachine. He says, I'm not dancing, his exact words, with this little piss pot, you know. But this fellow, Anton Dalton, is that?
Anton Dolan.
Anton Dolan. And by the way, just from reading about him, what a man he sounds like.
What a mensch.
Am I right?
He was Irish. His name was Patrick. In those days, you know, ballet was Russian like champagne was French. Everyone had to have a Russian name. So if you didn't, they made it up. And I knew him as Uncle Pat. He was Mum's best friend and partner for all those years since she was 13, and he was the greatest male dancer in the world at that time. And when the partner who should have partnered Swan Lake refused to dance with her, he said, "What nonsense, I'll dance with her myself."
But the partner's mother booby traps the gown and cuts the straps. So while Mom is actually dancing Swan Lake for the first time, literally the blouse top falls down, and this gentleman, as you said, Mensch, is so aware. He grabs her in a certain way, protects her through the entire dance as she still is going through and doing it, unbelievable at this age to keep your composure even. And I don't know, that it was just something so beautiful about that entire moment. And as you then interject, it almost seemed like that's the thing that really sold it to America after a while, but that really made the headlines the next day.
Well, I think it sure impressed the young men in the audience, that's for sure. Apparently they were taking bets to see if her top would fall off again.
Oh, gosh. But again, he saved her. He really was a gentleman who protected. And now they have to figure out, they want to start injecting some American themes into the ballet because they really are shooting now for the moon. They are realizing this is a craze and it's catching on, and we want it to stick.
Right, and the company with the choreographer Myassine made the first all-American ballet called Union Pacific, which was about the building of the Union Pacific Railroad. And there was cowboys and saloon girls and dancers playing the railroad ties that were carried in and laid as a track across the stage. And that was the forerunner of the great American ballets that were to follow, that weren't about Greek gods or the Arabian Nights or Russian folk tales. It was about American history and American mythology and iconic American like rodeo, cowboys, right? It was the forerunner to all the great American dancers and choreographers that came after.
I still love seeing the bill. I don't know if they'll ever be able to see it on TV, but in very small print under your mother's name, it says Jerome Robbins as one of the dancers.
Right.
And he's obviously became one of the greatest musical theater and choreographers of all time. So you can see the world did get swept up. It was the beginning
birth of truly American ballet.
Now she marries your dad, and literally that's the end of dance.
That was a condition of the marriage proposal, that she had to stop work, and even more, she had to not see any dancers for 5 years because he was terrified that they would persuade her back.
But your mom's words from her autobiography, a new sound entered my consciousness. And she realized after that 5 that she still could play a role in spreading what she loved.
She never stopped giving back. When she stopped performing, she started teaching, and she started working with the professional ballet companies to clean up and reinstate the choreography of the ballets that had been made on her for her company. And, not all great artists are great teachers. It doesn't necessarily follow, but she was inspirational. And I think she changed a lot of young dancers' lives by how she was able to communicate very directly. She was sort of emotionally defenseless. She was, like a child in that. She was able to communicate the heart and soul of the intention, of the artist's intention. It's not just a movement. Yes, there's a technical movement that the body makes, and it can be done technically brilliantly or not quite so flawlessly. But even if it's brilliant, it's empty if there isn't the heart and the soul that went into the movement. Why did the dancer make the gesture? You don't just do this for no reason. There has to be a reason. It has to say, I want this, or I want you, or I need to go there, or I'm begging you, or, there's something behind the meaning. And she was able to tell them, to show them what the meaning was.
Victoria, I could talk to you about Mom forever, but our time is up. I'm going to end with Mom's words. It gives me personally a lot of satisfaction to feel that my work, her work, helped introduce audiences to ballet and made them like it. There is a piece of me in all the companies that have ever since sprung up. Thank you, Victoria, for sharing that piece of your mom with us today.
Thank you, it was my privilege.
And thank you guys for joining us. Now, before Victoria leaves, I would like to leave you with these few more words from the book, Irina Baronova and the Ballet Russes de Monte Carlo. Each dancer collaborated and contributed to the interpretation of their role. This brought a freshness, a naturalness to every gesture, as if it were happening in the moment. Every moment was an outward expression of a flowing internal emotion with clear intent. And that is what Victoria's mom surely did for all. I'm Barry Kibrick. Between the dance of life lay simple truths. Collaborate, contribute, and bring freshness to everything you do, and you will make every moment count. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Hey, thank you.